brings 16 professional victories, 1 loss with 1 draw. By way of Canada, he fights out of Xi'an, China, Vaughn Blood Anderson. And across the cage, his opponent fighting out of the blue corner at 5'11", weighing in at 170.4 pounds. As a professional, 13.
This is a brand new jailhouse photo of the San Diego MMA fighter known as War Machine. The manhunt to find him ended this afternoon when he was
War Machine was sentenced today to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 36 years.
Resulting in substantial bodily harm. Guilty of battery constituting domestic violence. Guilty of sexual assault.
I'm not going to say no one's a liar. I'm not even going to give my version of the story because, you know, no one's going to believe me anyway. None of that matters. All I want is the evidence to speak for itself. So all you got to do is go and find that nurse report, man. There's a nurse report that was taken that night. You got to compare that to what she says on stand because it's totally different. And it's crazy because the night this all happened, she talked to that nurse. She gave her statement. Then 2 weeks later, she goes to this secret meeting with the DA, and I don't know what that DA did to her, bro. I don't know if they scared her into saying stuff, if they tricked her, I don't know how they coerced her into saying stuff, because they will not give me the statement. They met with the DA, and the statement is gone.
My name is Brandon Sua. I'm a criminal defense attorney out of Southern California. I'm a lifelong friend of Jon Koppenhaver. We grew up together, had a very close relationship. Jon grew up with circumstances that really didn't allow him to have a natural childhood like most of us. He didn't have the parental guidance. He didn't have the father figure and mother figure throughout an extensive period of his life.
The circumstances surrounding his father's death?
Oh, yes.
Okay, can you tell me a little bit about them?
Well, he had a massive heart attack in his sleep. And Jonathan tried to revive him, save his life, and that was very hard on him, not being able to save his dad's life. I mean, that was the love of Jon's life, was his father, and vice versa.
Jon and I really became close. It was beyond a friendship. It was like brothers. My parents were like parents to him. The really important parts of his life, my parents were there for him. My dad was there for him. My dad treated him like a son. My mom treated him like a son. Ever since then, we've been brothers.
And he was already witnessing violence toward you at that point?
Yeah. Yes. I don't even know if he was there the first time his dad beat me so bad. I'm sure he remembers everything. He just doesn't want to say it. He doesn't want to talk bad about his dad. But I don't either. Because I don't want him to be mad at me.
I was originally lead counsel. So from the very beginning of the case and after the incident, Jon came to me. He explained what happened. He needed my help. And I was there for him. And I litigated this case for approximately a year and a half, and before I brought on co-counsel.
My name's Jay Lederman. I'm predominantly a criminal defense attorney. I'm based out of Ventura, California, and I represented Jon Koppenhaver, aka War Machine, in his trial in Las Vegas, Nevada in February and March of 2017. I tend to concentrate on marijuana cases, computer hacking or computer crime cases, and most especially cases involving violent crime. And most certainly, this was a case involving violent crime, unfortunately.
Introducing War Machine.
War Machine looking to finish. He's got to go hand to hand on that. Just like that. Look at the finish there. That's a technical submission ruled by referee Jason Herzog. And that is the victory for War Machine.
At the outset of the case, once the district attorney's office looked at these charges, looked at the allegations, looked at the conduct, looked at the pictures of Ms. Mack, I think they immediately determined that this was something where they wanted to send Mr. Koppenhaver away to prison for life. And all of a sudden, as I've said before, 7 charges became 34. We are here to decide whether Mr. Koppenhaver is guilty or not guilty of 34 crimes. There are 7 crimes he was arrested for and initially charged with. And then there was 27 crimes added after Ms. McInday had secret and unrecorded meetings with the district attorney 3 weeks after the incident. Thank you.
The biggest, most significant thing that happened was the secret meetings that took place between Christy Mack, Corey Thomas, and the prosecution.
What happens in the state of Nevada is that in many cases, and in fact most serious cases, the district attorney and a district attorney investigator will bring a victim in for what they call a pretrial. And they go over the initial statements with the person, they go and discuss the crimes, the elements, how the case is going to go. They answer questions for them. It's typically a fairly routine proceeding and nothing very exciting about it. There was essentially an investigation. Ms. Mack gave all kinds of stories about all kinds of prior events and changed her testimony as to the initial events and contradicted her prior statements. That is crucial. And that is the basis of criminal discovery that should have immediately come over to the defense.
We weren't privy to that. We weren't present for that. We've attempted to get statements from the prosecutor's office. We attempted to learn what happened in these meetings and why were they so secretive? Why were we not entitled to that?
She turned over Corey Thomas's statement, as well she should have, but she never did turn over Christy Mack's statement, and that was the one that was really important. It was hidden from the defense, not just from the beginning, but it was hidden from the defense throughout. We never obtained those statements, and without them, we were at such a grave disadvantage in trying this case. We were a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest.
To take a case from 7 charges all the way to 34 charges, and yet the prosecution alleges that there wasn't a single statement taken. To this day, we question that.
In all my years of practice, which are closing right in on 20 now, nowhere would they have done something like this. Nowhere would these statements have been withheld.
After the incident in the early morning hours of August 8th, I don't know if it was while you were in the hospital or after the hospital, did you put a statement on Twitter regarding what happened?
In the days following, yes.
Okay.
He has beaten me many times before, but never this badly. He told me he was going to rape me, but was disappointed in himself when he could not get hard. I feel that I can no longer put myself in this situation. The cheating by him nearly every day and almost weekly abuse is now more than I can stand.
And last question about sexual assault. I apologize. I know you've answered so many questions. When you discussed the Houston incident, when you said after the defendant rubbed your vagina, he then got on top of you and started kind of, your words were dry humping you.
Yes.
During that time period, did his penis go in your vaginal hole?
No, it did not.
Did it go beyond your vaginal lips?
Yes.
Christy Mack made a couple allegations, and the evidence that existed in the nurse report was completely contrary to the statements that she made.
Did his penis go in your vaginal hole?
No, it did not.
Did it go beyond your vaginal lips?
Yes.
If you read the nurse report, and then if you go for a testimony, it's totally different. Like what happened? You know, something happened. That DA did something to her in that meeting, and that's why they're hiding the statement from us.
At that time, did you know that someone rubbing your vagina past the big lips is considered rape legally?
No, I had no idea.
The nurse is doing her job, so she goes, she clarifies, she says, she gives her the legal definition. She goes, did his finger pass the labial lips? And what did Christy say? No.
It was complete, straight impeachment, statements completely contrary to what she represented. And those statements were taken and preserved almost immediately after the alleged incident occurred. Those statements and those convictions held life sentences.
Due to the nurse report and her statement to the detective, they charged me with gross lewdness. And in Nevada, that carries a 1 to 3 year sentence. And then they go to the secret meeting. And now they change it to a sexual assault, which is a life sentence, a 10 to life.
When a witness is interviewed close to the time of the crime, the events of the crime are very fresh in their mind, and that's so important because your memory is never as good as it will be right after an event occurs.
As time goes on, these recollections, these memories, that become diluted, or you start filling in facts unintentionally about the things you just don't remember. So when you have an incident that takes place, those statements are so important because it preserves accuracy, it preserves the memory.
Dr. Ford, under federal law, and I don't expect you to know this, but statements made to medical professionals are considered to be more reliable. There's a federal rule of evidence about this.
Your memory is never as good as it will be right after an event occurs. You can describe it almost contemporaneously. So when Christy Mack says, for example, that there was no prior abuse, that her labial lips were not penetrated, that is a more credible statement than later on, for example, like 3 weeks later when she went to the district attorney's office in Las Vegas, and all of a sudden, you know, there were prior incidents, and she was penetrated.
And so when you have the ability to preserve a statement close to the incident, you get that statement because it's the most accurate statement you're going to receive.
In this case, they were on tape, yet still they changed the story over time.
And in the state of Nevada, there's only 2 states in the country where a statement alone is evidence. I mean, if Judge Kavanaugh and Donald Trump and even now, what's his face, the Biden, if these guys would have been accused in Nevada, they'd be in prison for life. Nevada says a statement alone with no evidence is enough to convict. And that's fine. That's fine. That's what it is what it is. It's a law. But when you have 2 contradictory statements, when you have her first saying no and then changing her statement and saying yes, now, well, what statement is true? Is it the no or the yes? So, you know, at this point, there's got to be more corroborating evidence. The swab's negative. I mean, that's all there is for the jury to look at. I should not have been found guilty, period.
A nice lady who has come forward to tell a hard story. Based on what I heard today, you could not get a search warrant or an arrest warrant because you don't know the location, you don't know the time, and you don't have any corroboration.
In this case, no one is doubting that Christy Mack is a victim. And no one is doubting that the conduct is serious and that it's violent and that it calls for some sanction. But to put someone away for essentially twice their age. He was in his mid-30s and he got 36 to life. To put them away for twice their age for conduct like this, it devastated me. Maybe I should have seen it coming.
36 years to life. That is not justice, and that is not right, and Jon certainly doesn't deserve that.
I really didn't think he was good for all those charges, and I never thought, and I will never think, that this is a life case.
And I hope that he has the opportunity to really display all evidence in a manner without any secret meetings, without any secret statements, without any prejudice, but just a real fair trial.
Jon Koppenhaver deserves to be back out on the streets. He's a man of God now. He's a man of faith. He is a man of belief, not just in God, but he is a man of belief in the world. He can do a great amount of good if he's given the opportunity.
I hope that the day comes where Jon does get out. I hope that everybody gets the opportunity to see the positivity and the good things that Jon brings to the table. People question, oh, did Jon really find God? Is Jon really putting on this show, or this character, this persona? And really the disturbing part about it is that I know he's genuine, but he's still not being heard. And people want to question his demeanor and his character now, today. But when he was actually putting on a show, when he was really driving this whole character that wasn't his true, genuine self, it was this crazy alter ego, UFC fighter image, through his publicist, through his agent, this was the character that they wanted because it was good for business, it was good for his career. It helped put him in that ring. At that time, when he's putting on this character that was so exaggerated, people don't find difficulty clinging to that. But when he has a true, genuine character, a whole change of life and finding God, I find it disturbing that people want to challenge that. Instead of just accepting that he's accepted God, that he's accepted a new way of life. How do you sit back and make that judgment about Jon when you don't know him? Not only do I know him for all that he is, I also have seen the changes. I've watched the development. And Jon would go through far extremes to help anybody that needed help. He's going through, even as we speak right now, he's doing what he can from behind bars to donate, to help, to fund a well for children who don't have the opportunity that we all have and take water for granted. How much of us out here are doing something positive like that? How many of us are taking the steps when we have greater opportunities to do it? And you talk about a guy who's been stripped of everything, and yet he still makes those efforts. I'd love for people to see that. That's Jon. That is Jonathan Koppenhaver. That's Jonathan Koppenhaver.